Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen, and it was Black Sunday is what today was, really across all of college football. My phone was absolutely, positively ringing since 9 a.m. this morning till roughly about 2 hours ago while I was at a Friendsgiving. It's been a crazy day, to say the least. Attention seekers were certainly out there in full force. The Lane Kiffin decision was one thing on top of that. Then you have the rumors of Cade Bell. We'll talk about that stuff tonight and why that is a real rumor and really what's the situation going on with that. Got asked about Pat Bostic and his tweet today. We'll talk a little bit about that. The attention seeking is just wild at this point anymore. Between any university or NFL team, it's wild anymore. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the game. We got Eric here tonight. He was at the Pittsburgh Steelers game tonight, and obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers did not do well tonight. Another loss in Acrisure Stadium. But we'll talk about the Miami beating Pitt 38-7. What does that mean? Projections that I had this year were 8-4, 9-3. They reached 8-4, but the games that they lost really kind of sour on you a little bit. And Duke versus Virginia in the ACC championship. If Pitt would have won against Miami, they would be heading to Charlotte, and we would be having a conversation about where are we buying tickets at to go to Charlotte. But we are not. We are 8-4. We will have a bye week going into the bowl season. We'll find out where we're going in bowl season. But in the time period of tonight, going into the next couple of weeks, there will be changes. There will be changes moving forward, and we'll go through a bunch of that stuff here tonight and really get into a lot of the intricacies of what's really happening behind closed doors in college football. The coaching carousel has been crazy, and we'll go into all that kind of stuff. But tonight, the show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Great people, and I went there, obviously, for the Pitt game. Picked up a seltzer, one of their cool seltzers. Obviously, I love a Happy Dad. Got to enjoy those for the Pitt football games. You usually like to have about 3 or 4 of these to kind of get you in the mood because you never know how the game's going to go. So the Happy Dad, really cool one here tonight. I'm going to have a drink with you guys here tonight, and I have a drink with Eric. So I'm like, you know what? Eric's always enjoying a good drink on the show here. I'm like, you know what? I got to actually embrace that mentality on here. And obviously, he is the best when it comes to reviewing alcoholic beverages and really good ones at that to be at that. Make sure you guys go to Colonial Beer. Again, Bill and Alan, 2 great Pitt men who do a phenomenal job. Pitt season ticket holders, Pitt donators, Pitt supporters. Make sure you guys go support a small business as well here in the city of Pittsburgh. Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, an attorney on your side. Call them today at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Brian Thompson, truly one of the best. Again, another season in the books with him going to the Pitt football games. But Brian is the best because unlike larger law firms, Brian cares about you, the individual, and the relationship with you. You're not a number, you're a person. And he cares about the results that you need for your case. He'll guide you through the process from beginning to end and make sure you get the results that you need. If he doesn't have an answer, he'll still guide you through the process and put you in front of somebody who has those answers. Brian comes from a great family, has a great family, and does numerous amounts of volunteer work in the area. Make sure you guys give Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson a call today at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Last but not least, the K Collection, the Backwards K Collection here by Austin Kitchen. Again, the AK Espresso is my favorite. He's also got a number of other ones on there. I just love this one personally. Again, there's just nothing better than when I walk in my office, have one of these things in the morning, and boom, you're ready to go. Make sure you guys get yours today. The AK Espresso, Austin Kitchen, hometown hero of Mount Lebanon High School here in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, Coastal Carolina, Chanticleer, national champion, and now in the major leagues with the Seattle Mariners. Guys, if it can help support and promote and fuel an MLB athlete or a professional athlete, it can certainly fuel me and you. Make sure you guys go get yours today. The K Collection, the coffee brand by Austin Kitchen at www.thekingscraft.com. Now, we welcome to the stage our guest here tonight, Eric. I witnessed a bad loss on Saturday. You witnessed a bad loss here on Sunday. Brother, it's been a tough weekend. It has been a tough weekend, to say the least.
It has been a tough weekend. Thank God the holidays are here to spend with family and friends to kind of get your minds off of it. But that was a couple of shit shows at the stadium down there this week, man. Not good.
Certainly not good to say the least. And it was a tough weekend. And to really start the show off, because I'm starting to see the questions starting to pop in. Again, guys, make sure you hit the like button down below. It's free. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And again, the show is free, so don't be a hoe. Share the show. That's all we ask here. And remember, if you want to get your question up on the screen here tonight, use the super chat button down below, and we'll be able to get yours up on the screen immediately. The first thing I want to talk about today, as I crack my happy dad, even though it's not a happy moment here for Pittsburgh sports, the first one that came up today was, the Pat Bostic tweet. That came up pretty quickly. I saw the tweet. I really didn't think much of it, to be quite frank with you. But people were like, "Oh my God, is Pat Bostic out of the booth? Is he leaving Pitt?" Guys, I am here to tell you he's not leaving Pitt. He's not out of the booth. He was just pretty much saying thank you for how many years he's been involved with it, and he doesn't take it for granted. He's a Pitt man through thick and thin, and he just really appreciates the opportunity to be in the booth with a legend and Bill Hillgrove and what he does on a day in, day out basis. The way he phrased it certainly put people into a spin a little bit. I think Pat Bostic was kind of putting into his channeling his inner Lane Kiffin, I guess, had to get a little bit of eyeballs, had to get a couple likes here and there. It is what it is at this point. But hey, he's appreciative of being in the booth. He cares about Pitt fans. He cares about the Pitt faithful, and he's ready for another year going into it. But Pat Bostic is not going anywhere, guys. He is still in the booth. Don't take that thing for granted. So that's topic number one. Going into it before we get to there, John Waffle with a super chat here, $20 super chat. Thank you, sir. I'm still shocked Narduzzi supporters still exist. These lunatics are attacking real Pitt fans on X for expecting better. For the record, I don't think any Pitt thought this team would win a national title. I agree. And, before we get into the Cade Bell rumors and what we do with that, Eric, I think that I like what his comment is here, that one, Pitt fans should expect more. I had this team going to 8-4, 9-3. They finished 8-4. Pitt has 2 ranked wins on the season against Florida State and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech on the road, Florida State on the road. But 2 really bad, collectively bad losses. And I told people this earlier. You can be upset with how Pitt finished the season. And again, I am too. I have told people on record of how I feel about Pat Narduzzi. I would totally be in favor of getting rid of Pat Narduzzi because I think Pitt can do better with this administration and the actual resources and the collectiveness from the chancellor down to the AD, down to the head football coach. And to John Waffle's point here, there is nothing wrong with wanting more. There is nothing. That's the whole point of why we do what we do here, because we want to win games. We want to win the AC championship. Yeah. Guess what? This is a team that we should have been competing for an AC championship. We competed, but we lost. We didn't make it there. And because of stupid, really bad losses to whether it's West Virginia, Louisville, were just 2 of those, not keeping it even close to Notre Dame, not keeping it close to Miami, you really have to question those type of things. And I think that there's a lot of things going on right now that you have to look at and say, what are the odds that Pitt can do better? I think personally they can do better. But Eric, do you think it's good for Pitt fans to want more and to understand, hey, with the amount of guys we had back, we were paying a quarterback $1.9 million. It was clearly the wrong quarterback to pay, but we were paying them, and we did have high expectations this year. Is it okay for Pitt fans to say, hey, you know what? In a conference right now that's really up for grabs, a lot like the Big 12, a lot like the SEC at portions of it. Is it okay to want more? I say yes. What are your thoughts?
100%. I think it's realistically to want more. Now, what I mean by that is it's not that Pitt lost to Notre Dame and Miami. It's the fashion that they lost. But it's also the realization of where Pitt is at right now. Mm-hmm. All year, we highlighted and identified the great defensive line play that the Pitt Panthers had this year, and rightfully so. But their deficiency is the size. I don't want to say strength because I'm not going to call any of those guys, on the D-line, not strong. But if you know what I'm saying, like they were engulfed by Miami and Notre Dame offensive linemen. So if you translate that to the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, you probably would see similar performances against that upper echelon team. But what I do think is they want more because they see the talent. I think we had a comment in here a week or two ago. I believe that was spot on, where I think Pitt is definitely a top 25 team. They're just not a top 10 team.
Yeah.
So for that appetite to be there this year in the realization, yes, it is 100% good and okay to want more, because I think Pitt is on the rise. Let's see what next year brings, if there's any coaching changes or with recruiting, who's coming back, who's leaving for the NFL. It is 100% good that you want more, but realize where they got to go to get to that top 10 level. I think if they can stick with what they're at, where they're at now, skill position wise on the defense, linebackers, and secondary, they're there. Let's see if they can make that next step. And I do think they can. It just depends on what they can do here in the offseason.
And I agree to your point. I thought you had a really good point there, and was really on my mind. I do believe Pitt is a 19 to 20 to 25 football team in terms of the rankings, 19 to 25. But what you saw, to your point, is from the top 12 to number 1, we're nowhere near that yet. And that just tells you how much of a difference there is when it goes into college football and to get to those levels. Also, too, I was at that game on Saturday, like I have been at every home game this year. I'm going to be honest with you. We're competing against Miami for an AC title berth, potentially going to 9-3. And at most, we had 40,000 fans there. That kind of irritated me as well. I'm not asking for 70,000. I'm not asking for 60,000, but 50,000. I know it was cold around the country. We saw a number of universities across the country were tough to look at because the wind blister was just absolutely ridiculous. I got sick last night. I was telling Eric before the show, but Pitt is in that 19 to 25 range. That is my personal opinion. I agree. Now, there are Narduzzi supporters that still exist. I mean, that's all well and good. It is what it is. I got to give him credit a little bit because we are 8-4. He made the correct changes, but there's a lot of things that need to change. I think Pitt needs to be very aggressive in the portal with defensive linemen, interior and defensive end wise. We need the prototypical Pat Narduzzi defensive ends, and that's like 6'4", 6'5", great length, great speed. That's what we need to go back to and get to be elite on the outside and be able to create pressure like we were for over 5-6 straight years under Charlie Partridge. The same thing with the inside, where we really lose our gap and not be able to really hold up our gaps, and then lose plenty of leverage. Then all of a sudden we're giving up how many rushing yards per game. That's not a Pat Narduzzi defense. The same thing goes for the offensive line. The offensive line certainly needs to be regrouped. They need a lot more bodies in there to go in there and compete with the number of guys that will be back next year. I think it needs to get better. But also, too, in my personal and honest opinion, Jeremy Darvo should not be the offensive line coach next year. For 2 straight years, we have seen a number of guys regress. Ryan Bayer regressed. B.J. Williams regressed. I thought Lyndon Cooper actually regressed. These are good offensive linemen that aren't reaching their potential. And I think that, the offensive line change needs to happen and needs to start with the offensive line group. Now, that goes into my next point. And again, we have another super chat here. Pittman Zach, hail to Pitt. Always Pitt's going bowling. Let's get that 9th win. Does Lewis leave for the NFL? To answer that question, yeah, Lewis is going to go. He's a projected first 2-round, top 2-round guy. He's going to the NFL. That's for sure going to happen. The Cade Bell rumors, are they for real? They are. I mean, he is a top 2 candidate right now with Florida. I will personally not put the name out there of the other candidates out there, but John Summerall, which is pretty crazy. I got a call by 2 people during the Pitt game on Saturday that told me, hey, just giving you a heads up, I did hear that Cade Bell's going to Florida. Now, I haven't verified that he's going there for sure, but I would imagine it's pretty strong right now. He is a top 2 candidate right there. His dad Kerwin Bell, played quarterback at Florida. The one thing that is a little, I don't know. One thing I just really don't like is a guy that's always looking for a job, always looking to find a way out, to go somewhere else or to go some other place that they think is better. We've seen that online on X. People that are close to Cade Bell, a lot of friends. I understand that Pitt is not Georgia. I understand Pitt is not Alabama. It's not the top echelon of college football, but the ungratefulness of getting this job really irks me a little bit. And to your players, that also does piss me off quite a bit. Also, too, there has to be eventually people have to sit down and look at the overall body of work with this offensive group. Number one, we did have a true freshman quarterback. That needs to be said. Number two, I think we need more bodies in the wide receiver room. I think Kenny Johnson's a great wide receiver, but after that, I think there's lacking of talent in that wide receiver room. K. Bell recruited a number of those guys in that room. I think he needs to go back to the drawing board and go after different guys. I also think the offensive line group needs to get revamped with more talent. Now, that also comes with the fact of coaching needs to be involved with to say, hey, if my offensive line group, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you have a weak offensive line group, there's ways that you're able to prepare against certain teams. Whether you're preparing as a Notre Dame or a Miami or a Georgia Tech, what do you do to offset the amounts of pressure that come your way? When your offensive line is struggling, why in God's name are you going 5 wide with nobody in the backfield with limited protection, and you have to have a hot route or an underneath route or a check down immediately because someone's going to be untouched, someone's going to be unblocked, or someone's going to be missed in the blocking assignment? That's bad coaching. I do believe in making sure players understand what they need to do, but there's also bad coaching. And go look at the games against Notre Dame. Go look at the games against Miami. Go look at the games against, I guess, you really can't count Louisville, but even like West Virginia at the time. Look at the really good teams, Florida State, on the schedule. They struggle quite a bit, and I think there has to be some reflection on, why was there not more adjustments in that football game? Why was it so anemic as the game just continually went on? I think that Kate Bell is a really good offensive coordinator. I do believe that, but he's not an elite play caller yet. And I think that there has to be some type of a reflection on what you are and what you are right now and where you are. So, at the end of the day, do I expect him to go to Florida? It's pretty strong right now. He's one of two candidates. It's a 50-50 shot. But again, he has ties there. He wanted to go last year. I'd imagine there's a buyout for him to leave Pitt because he still has 2 years left on his contract. So we'll certainly monitor that and what that looks like. But it's going to be something to monitor. And again, if he wants to go, hey, his dad played there. He wants to go coach at Florida. By all means, have at it. But give us time to make sure we can go out and find another offensive coordinator. And also, too, I don't expect Mason Heinschel to go with him. That is another thing that was recently relayed to me. I don't expect him to go. If he does leave, I don't expect him to go with Kate Bell because, one, the opportunity to start here and also be involved in the process of what they do to bring in another offensive coordinator. Eric, to your point, a number of points that you had, but I guess the question I have to you is, when Pitt fans look at this situation right now, is it something to look at with the offensive coordinator to say, okay, hey, we did really good in these games? We have a true freshman quarterback. We struggled in the 2 games where we had a really good opponent. That's something we need to look at. And overall, do you think it makes sense to say, hey, we're not at that echelon yet of up here. We did good against these other teams. Again, Georgia Tech, number 16 team in the country. We did great against them. But once you start hitting that upper echelon, there are still questions to be had there, including the offensive coordinator and the offensive room in general.
Yeah, Kate Bell did a lot of good things this year, and I think he is a bright football mind, and he is still young as well. However, he is growing in himself in being an OC. We have seen far too many times where he draws brain farts in parts of the game, whether it's for a quarter after maybe an adjustment. He wants to get, and one of my keys to the game against Miami was not to get too cute, when it's down in distance. And I think I saw another chat in here as well too, JJ, when you're talking about, why would you go to a 5 wide, with no extra help in the backfield with the weak offensive line? It's not even that's part of it, but it's also then when you do that, you're calling 5 and 7 step drop passes that is basically inviting pressure. It's inviting blitz schemes to go after Mason because of the offensive line that had their issues, especially in some of that upper echelon, some of those upper echelon teams. Losing Cade Bell, I don't think is going to be an issue if that were to happen, as much as it is who are you going to replace them with. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're saying and what you're feeling if Mason comes back, that is also should, whether it's Narduzzi or anyone else, pair up an offensive mind, either a very, very strong OC to coach with Narduzzi, or if you're replacing Narduzzi, and again, nobody knows what's happening with him, but you want to now pair that coach with Mason, and I think you can attract players
Really
to keep
good
building. And honestly, though, and I do think sometimes the size of the offensive lineman, because of Cade Bell's system, I believe – I don't know this for a fact. JG, you may know better than I, and we'll have to ask Harry whenever I see him. His system being that wide open often invites smaller athletic linemen.
Yeah.
Which, as you see, can compete in the ACC, maybe with the exception of Miami up front. So it's going to win you a lot of ball games, but it's not going to win against the big boys if they ever make the college football playoffs. So I think that schematic has to change. And I do think because of that, it might be better off without Cade Bell if you bring another solid offensive mind that can build the trenches and continue to use the skill positions. If Mason comes back, I think the skill positions who can come back will come back.
I agree with you as well. And another thing too is, to your point, you look at the trenches, and I've always said the way you build in the NFL or in college is from the front back, and that starts with your offensive lineman and your defensive lineman. And when you looked at our O-line compared to their D-lines and what they were able to do up front, there's a lot of miscommunication. I also do believe there's a lot of non-coaching. I really do. I've got a very strong feeling towards if Cade Bell returns, we need a new offensive line coach. And I think that the body of work produces that. When players are getting worse, that means that there is no coaching going on, and that is a problem. That is a major problem. Number two, you look at the size. Yeah, we do need bigger offensive linemen. Even under Borbley, who we had here for how many years, you had those bigger offensive linemen. Maybe they lacked a little bit of athletic agility. I get that. Maybe go after some more athletic guys. I understand that portion of it. But there needs to be better athletes there up front. The same thing goes to defensive ends. We can't be dealing with guys that are defensive ends that are 6'1". That's just not a prototypical Pat Narduzzi defense. In our day with Pat Narduzzi, we had guys, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", who were absolutely just studs on the outside. Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver, just to name a few. Then you had your guys in there that was a little bit different, like a Juan Price that was there. Inside, you had Jalen Twyman. You saw a lot of guys, Kalijah Cansey, that had that lack of size, but were just really good athletes. We're lacking that right now. And I think it's kind of being known. To this question here, where are we with NIL outlook? Any info on how much rev share will go to football? So, well, Kish Dix, allegedly the roster was roughly, $14 million this year. I would imagine that goes up. And again, I've said this before on this show. Myself has said it. Harry has said it. Eric has said it. This new regime change with Alan Green was a saving grace to Pitt because Heather Lyke had no opportunity with NIL here with Pitt. She didn't believe in it. That's why I bring up the Jeff Capel scenario quite often. The guy was fighting with basically trying to recruit players with resources that were just above Boston College. That's a fair gripe to say, hey, you know what, we're playing in a world of college athletics. We need resources. Well, now that you look at the class coming in, look at basketball right now with their class coming in. They have 3 top 100 players. They're not coming here for free. Basketball and football number one, and people need to understand this. Football pays the bills. That is a fact. Whether people like it or not, I don't care. That is a fact of how universities are run. You want to make money, you got to make sure football is competing at a very high level. And Pitt has certainly dumped a lot of money into football, whether it's their head coaching salary. Heck, this year alone, Pat Narduzzi will be over $8 million from what we've seen from previous tax returns. We're going to see a lot more adjustments. Cade Bell was a top third paid offensive coordinator in the ACC. The resources are certainly dumped into this team, and it continues to be dumped into this team because Alan Green is fundraising money at such a high rate because he knows what we can achieve in football, which is great. When you have an AD that actually believes you can win consistently, not just 1 year off or 1 year off and 1 year on, that you can compete and win ACC titles every year and go to the playoffs every year and compete for national championships, that's a pretty big factor moving forward. Yeah. And that's my opinion. But the NIL outlook moving forward, as long as Alan Green's here, is pretty damn good. That's my God's honest opinion. And I've seen it, from numerous other people who have told me about it. He's now been here for over a year now. It's been a massive movement going forward. And, one of the things I heard Alan Green say recently, I got a great relationship with Pat Narduzzi. I got a great relationship with Jeff Capel. But does the wins and losses match the investment? You got to put the personal stuff aside and go towards business. And some coaches right now, I know, are on the clock. We'll monitor what Pitt does in terms of what coaching changes happen, where coaches go. Again, Cade Bell rumors to Florida are real. Again, he's a top 2 candidate. We'll see if he gets the job when it comes out. We'll monitor the situation. But at the end of the day, Pitt has the resources right now, and it just continues to rise. But also, too, be realistic, too. Take my glasses off for a second here, like I always do. We need more fan support, too. Just call a spade a spade. I mean, you got to have at least 45, 50,000 people a game. Not asking for 60,000 or 70,000. Mm-hmm. I mean, heck, we can barely fill the stadium without open spots here and there for Steeler games. I'm not asking for 70,000 fans. Go do 50 to 55,000. That's where we should be at consistently. 2021, we averaged about 53, 54,000. I mean, it's where we should be. We're a city school. We're competing with season tickets to the Steelers, season tickets to the Penguins, season tickets to the Pirates. We're not in Morgantown, West Virginia, where the coolest thing to do in the neighborhood is go to Walmart. Sorry, we don't have that kind of stuff going on here. We actually have stuff to do here. We actually do shit here. Okay? There's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of other attractions to what people go to and what other attractions are for season tickets, let alone people don't understand that factor of it. I mean, I've heard that from a number of different attorneys that I work with that talk about that all the time. But that's a massive factor. But we need more fan support, too. That's just a reality of it. And you want to be able to show that off to other coaches, but also other administrators who consider this job. And it's been a massive factor. Even, allegedly, again, through numerous people I talked to, John Gruden really hyped the University of Pittsburgh up when he was here. He loved what he saw from the University of Pittsburgh. He loved the campus. He went and walked that through there. Talked to Alan Green, talked to Chancellor Gable. Loved the entire thing. I mean, talked about how great of a university this is and why we should be a consistent winner year in and year out. That tells you enough as it is.
I wish that Pitt would actually, the one thing they would do while they're in the stadium, and I've asked this request many times, is other than when you're playing a Notre Dame, a West Virginia, a Penn State, of those big schools, that whole back section of Heinz Field, the very back, that should just be a big Pitt tarp.
Yeah.
And kind of close that off and push everybody down, right? Sell the top as needed, but push everybody down, because also then the TV optics look a lot better. Because, again, when you do put 53,000 people in that stadium and you have that many empty seats, it looks like there's nobody at the game when, in fact, there's 50-some thousand people there. Yeah. If you push everybody down, I get there's a whole bunch of logistical things that need to happen for that, with people with season tickets and, last minute, I'm not going, and I'll come down, wait, now I'm here, get out of my seat, all that kind of stuff. But that would be one, I think, easy fix to do. And then obviously when the demand is there, rip the tarp off and sell those tickets. So it's just things that I think that could, some small things that could help with that. But I agree with you. The fan support needs to get there. Support the team. Listen, you know what? It's cold weather. Guess what? We're in Pittsburgh. Cold weather happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's cold weather all over the Northeast. So, we do need to get more fan support there with as far as University of Pittsburgh goes. But you know what? I think if they continue to build this year, I think that'll hopefully it'll come.
I agree. And another super chat here, $10 super chat. Thank you, MCPP6616. JJ, I think we also need to discuss the Harrison penalty that gave them a fresh set of downs. In my opinion, his ass shouldn't have seen the field after that. Send a message and work on the team discipline. So this is another thing, too. And again, we talked about it with numerous people during the game and after the game. Do I agree that they need more discipline? 110%. Undisciplined football is just mirroring Pat Narduzzi. But also, too, during that game, I watched that game. Again, I was there. How many times was a close catch that Pitt made reviewed by the ACC referees? How many plays were not reviewed by ACC referees? I mean, there was a flag. I mean, when you go back and look at the numbers overall, I mean, how many bickering and fighting and talking about it, going back and forth, how many of those times were going on during the football game? I mean, I'm looking at team stats right now. I mean, Pitt had 10 penalties for 88 yards. Miami only had 5. Like, how do we have double the penalties. I mean, they were both highly penalized teams going into this game. That's a question mark. And also, you look at across the board, there was chirping going on the whole entire game. Does he need to keep his mouth shut there? Yeah, they say the taunting is a flag. But how come the other team is allowed to taunt then? That's my thing. Like, I don't mind players being confident. You don't want players stiff on the football field. You don't. That was my gripe when you're watching this game. You're just like, I mean, literally people in our section too were saying it's almost like if they called a flag on Miami, it was like a grace of God type of feeling because it just every flag was on Pitt. I mean, it was just especially in big moments of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, do I agree that they need to have more discipline and be able to stop? Yeah, I completely agree. But also too, let's call the game fairly. I mean, am I wrong, Eric?
Yeah, no, and I really think taunting is. Listen, if one team has 5-10 more penalties than the other, and they're procedural penalties, there's some other things that is what it is, right? You got to call it whenever it's there. But when you're talking about taunting and you're talking about like personal fouls of like when it's verbal such, that is a subjective call from the referee. Now, yes, you can't. I'm sure you can't say certain things to players on the field, and I'm sure there's like race, religion type things that are completely a no-no, as they should be. But if you're just talking smack you're talking 18, 19, 20-year-old kids talking smack to each other. If there's that big of a disparity on penalties to one side versus the other, when you're talking about those type of penalties, you start to scratch your head a little bit. And I do think with the ACC, and again, I am not a conspiracy theorist at all, but you start to wonder because you hear the SEC and the Big Ten who want to expand playoffs because we need to get more teams in the playoffs. It's more of their teams. Is it the ACC going, you know what, there's a crack right now. If we get Miami in there, and it goes to show you that they're throwing the ball for touchdowns with 40 seconds to go in the game. They're trying to, they're doing their best to try to get Miami. Again, it's a conspiracy theory, right? But I feel like that's when you start having that big of a disparity on those personal fouls or taunting penalties to one way, you kind of start scratching your head a little bit.
Yeah.
You do.
I agree with you. And we were having that conversation during the game. Even a Miami fan said it. Miami's ranked so high, it's almost like they're trying to help Miami to make sure they get into the playoff because they're right there. Because I even said before the game, if Miami wins this game and convincingly, they're going to the playoff. It is that simple. Now you have Duke and Virginia going at it. If Virginia wins, they'll also go to the playoff. So the ACC will have two teams to go to the playoff. There were just some calls that you looked at that during that game, and it just changed the momentum of that game. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the referees are the reason why, Pitt lost that game.
No.
Now, were some calls egregious in that game that changed the momentum? Certainly. But Pitt lost that game because of Pitt. I mean, it is that simple.
Yeah.
But they do need more discipline, and that has always been a problem under Pat Narduzzi in his tenure. It is just the constant flags, and it constantly loses you games. So that is something that needs to be corrected. And again, people know my side, where I sit.
Yep.
I truly do believe Pitt can go out and get a better head football coach. That's my God's honest opinion. I really do. But we are with this guy right now. He is here, but there needs to be a conversation from Alan Green to him to say, hey, this stuff needs to change or we're going to start looking somewhere else, because at the end of the day, you went 8-4, but you also shouldn't have lost to West Virginia, and you shouldn't have lost to Louisville. You should be 10-2 right now going to an AC title game. Why are we not doing that? Because of bad coaching. So,
well, we talked about throughout the year, right? It's that magical 5 penalties, maybe 6 penalties and under. Pitt stays at that or under, they usually have a lot of success. Anything over that, they tend to struggle and or lose games. So you're 100% correct on that.
Yeah, and Coffee 8087, thank you, sir, for the $20 super chat and the support as always. Hard call on Pat. He gave us stability when it was needed. He was loyal to us. I feel like we should give him another year, but I do think our standard is higher. I'll time it with and agree with Tomlin. We went volunteers, not prisoners. Well, let me tell you something. Me and Eric talked about it. Mike Tomlin's time in Pittsburgh's coming to a close here pretty soon because of how bad they're playing also as well. So, I agree. Pat Narduzzi gave us stability, but also, too, there has to come a point in time where when you're paying a coach $8 million a year, which is more than what Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, who went to a national title game, makes, That's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And to Alan Green's point, Alan Green, he brought it up directly. He's like, does the investment match the results? Does the results match the investment? That is a massive factor. And I love that about Alan Green because he wants to win desperately. He knows he can win here. And I think that there's more and more conversations as we go on. And, I do agree. Again, I appreciate everything Narduzzi's done. We've gone to multiple ACC championship games. We've won an ACC championship. We're one of 3 teams to do that. It was Florida State, Clemson, and Pitt. This year we'll have a different champion in Virginia or Duke. So there'll be a 4th team. But we have been competing for them, and I get it. But also, too, when is enough? And I think that there were some close calls where, Pat Narduzzi, which he does deserve credit for making the quarterback change. But as I've said before in the show here, if Pat Narduzzi doesn't make that change, I don't think it was a change of want. I think it was a change of understanding. I'm going to get fired. And he said it, 3 or 4 weeks afterwards saying, hey, I'm just doing the stuff that I need to do to make sure I don't get fired. Heather Light's not here anymore. There's a guy in charge that actually wants to win football games and understands the priority of football and is really elite at raising money, which we have seen. Things have to change. Again, I've said before, I beyond appreciate what Pat Narduzzi has done. He has raised our floor and our ceiling. But like any other place, go look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They won a championship with Peterson. They fired him 2 years later. They went back to the Super Bowl again. They got rid of Andy Reid. Andy Reid's one of the best coaches in the NFL right now. Sometimes when things get stale, you're here to go here. You got to find that right coach that is able to maneuver that and move it forward. That's just my opinion. And again, do I believe that Pat Narduzzi's back next year? Yeah. I don't see anything happening. The Michigan State job was filled today with Pat Fitzgerald. And again, everything I've heard, he's actually a really good guy. That whole situation over at Northwestern was pretty crazy. He went to court over it. They settled with him. Kind of tells you everything you know. Tells you everything that you need to know. If you settle with somebody, you're on the wrong end of it. So good, good for Pat Fitzgerald. Obviously, Alex Golish, the USF head football coach, he goes to Auburn. He's going to be enjoying himself there. Lane Kiffin set everything on fire by going to LSU. John Sumrall going from Tulane to Florida. The dominoes are now into effect. Coastal Carolina, a dear school of mine that I love, fired their head football coach today, Tim Beck. Appreciate him. And I saw a comment in here before. People were asking about it. He was 6-6. That's just not the standard. And I think that they can go above and beyond because of how, personally, I say that because, one, I know a lot of what was going on in the building. That's kind of why I say what I say, because I know a lot of stuff that's going on more than what fans know. I go behind the curtain. Coastal Carolina's got an opportunity to really put things right. And there's a couple coaches that I know personally from the SEC who want that job. A former head football coach that wants that job. So I'm excited for them, and I cannot wait for them to interview those guys because I think they can really hire a damn good football coach. But the cycle is now going. I mean, it's on full fledged. Jim Mora going from UConn to Colorado State. I mean, you're looking at the barrage of coaches from around the country that are making these moves. So it's going to be interesting. But to your point, I do believe our standard should be higher, Coffee. And yes, I do agree with you. Stability was needed, and he did give us stability. But there's nothing wrong with wanting a little bit of change. John Waffle here, another super chat, $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. I will say that Pitt fans do show up to away games. A lot of alumni live out of state. I do agree with this.
Yeah.
I did hear a lot of fans showed up to the Florida State game, to the Georgia Tech game. People were talking about that down at Georgia Tech. I did hear about that. I did hear about it. What was there was another game that was out there, Georgia Tech, and then I can't remember the other away game that was there. It was really good. But to your point, I do agree with you about that. There are a number of teams that do go on the wayside and do a really good job of, they do a good job of traveling. And to your point, they are out of state. I'm excited about that. And that continues to be a good thing, but we just got to continue to get our ducks in an order, and our ducks in a row here at home. We need more people at home. That's what it is. I understand we're playing in a stadium too big. We're one of the larger stadiums in college football. It just shouldn't be that way. Heck, look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a massive brand and a massive team in the SEC. They just lowered their stadium capacity, 7,000 seats to 73,000 because they're putting premium seating in. How do we in Oklahoma have the same exact size stadium when, in Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma, there's nothing going on in Norman, Oklahoma. You're going to watch football there. That's what you're going to do. You're going to watch the boom, again, Boomer Sooner. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. Oklahoma's a brand. I mean, that's a college football brand. So, yeah. And if they're lowering it too, I mean, it is, like you said, when you're a city school and you're competing against other things, that's a realistic expectations you're going to draw. I guess I do think that sweet spot is 45 to 55,000 week in, week out. And it's where we're at. It's where Pitt's at right now. So nothing wrong with that.
JJ, given Pitt's history, I feel like this program could be and should be at the top echelon program. Maybe this topic for a different day, but what has happened that led us not being one? This is certainly a topic for another day, but go research, 1990 to 2005, 2006, before Dave Wannstedt got there. You had bad leadership in the chancellor room. You had bad leadership in the AD room when they tore down, and again, the Steelers convinced Pitt to tear down, Pitt Stadium to join them over Heinz Field, to where they can get Heinz Field, because they needed a multi-tenant to get public funding from the city of Pittsburgh. Because if Pitt didn't go to Heinz Field, they wouldn't have gotten public. They wouldn't have gotten public funding, and the Steelers wouldn't have been at Heinz Field. They still would have been at Three Rivers. So it's a monotonous type of deal. Bad leadership, again, like any other organization in the world, when you have bad leadership, it drains organizations. And we just had it there over multiple decades. That's just a fact. That's just what really happened. It's unfortunate. We have some of the best history in the country. You look at the history of Pitt football. I mean, whether it's Dan Marino, Mike Ditka, Aaron Donald, Tyler Boyd, James Conner. I mean, Goldberg. I call the Goose. Saragusa. I mean, you got so many guys that go through. I mean, Reuben Brown. I mean, hell, Tony Dorsett. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's ridiculous. But we need to get back to that. I think we had the people involved with it, but also too come to the reality of like, hey, to get us to that point of like Alabama, Georgia, all those other schools, it would take a lot to get to that point, because those are college towns. But also too, there's no reason why we're not a top 20 to top 10 school. We have the resources for it. It's up to Pitt to find out and make a decision why, if they want to go in that direction. It's that simple.
I agree.
Going through this here, let's see a couple other comments in here. He's going as a coordinator, right? Summerall's getting the head coaching job. Yeah, so I got a call about it. I knew he was getting the head coaching job about a couple of days ago. It was pretty much finalized, and nothing was out yet. But Cade Bell is one of two guys interviewing for that position. It seems like he has the lead right now going into the final round of it. And it sounds like pretty much it's close to being a done deal. So we'll monitor it. We'll see what it goes into. Right now, he coaches at Pitt. That's all we know. Great comment. Should Notre Dame or Miami be in? Pretty simple. Miami. Guess what? Head-to-head matchups matter, buddy. And I can tell you this, whether Notre Dame fans want to agree with this or not, Miami took care of business and they won head-to-head. If they're on the schedule, they won the game.
If you put Notre Dame in over Miami, there's a bigger problem.
I couldn't agree more. And they're both 10-2. They're both 10-2.
Head-to-head matters. Then you're telling the college football world that head-to-head doesn't matter, or it only matters if you play late in the season.
Yep.
And it's what, actually, here's something else too, and I want to throw this out there. This is not maybe a now discussion too. What if Duke beats Virginia? Because it's the top 5 conference champions. That means the ACC could be left out, excuse me. Yeah. Would that sneak a JMU in as well as like a Tulane or whomever into the college football playoff if Duke ends up winning? And I don't know how in the hell they won all those tiebreakers.
Yeah, I mean, that would be first off, the ACC, which I've also said before, ACC commissioner Jim Phillips, I just think he's done an absolute shitty job. I mean, why you would ever allow a conference championship come down to percentages is just blatantly stupid. First off, with this many teams, you should have kept it in divisions. It's that simple. You should have had divisions still with these many teams. I would kind of hope they go back to it at some point, because you have these many teams. It doesn't change anything regardless of anything, prior. I mean, and even when we had no divisions, the same teams would have been there. It didn't matter. I would hope that goes back to it. But then again, just with all the tiebreakers, and it came down to winning percentage in the ACC, and then one other criteria, Duke's in there. Now, if Duke wins, depending upon where they're ranked, I mean, they'll have a ranked win. I don't know. They beat Wake Forest, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine probably, Miami would be the only team that gets in. I don't think a conference champion would get in because Duke's 7-5. No, they'll be 8-5 at that point. You just can't allow a 5-win team to get in the playoff. I don't care what you are. But I think at this point, I would think that Virginia wins that football game. I really do. I'd be kind of shocked if they don't. They're a 10-1. Was it 11-1 football team? I think now they are, or like 10-2. I think a 10-2 football team. Something like that. Virginia.
Yeah, I think so.
10-2 or 11-1, one or the other. Alan Levine, any update on the campus stadium? 45 to 50,000 is our need as a fan base, not 75 or 100,000. 25,000 empty seats. What was their record?
Virginia's 10-2.
10-2. So yeah, I mean that makes sense. They win the conference championship, they get in.
Yeah, they'll get in.
Yeah, recruiting and seats kill recruiting 4- and 5-star players. Held a Pitt. Yeah, I mean that's an update there. I mean, again, I've said it before on the show, and you guys have heard me say it. It's going to happen. I think there's a lot of conversation going on to see whether the Steelers stay downtown or they try to move out to the suburbs. A lot like what Cleveland's done, a lot like what Buffalo's done, a lot like what Chicago's done. Everyone's trying to move in that direction. Because guess what? If the Steelers ever leave Acrisure Stadium, I can promise you Pitt's going to repurpose that stadium because they have all the club seats and the suite seats that are already there. Just repurpose it down to 50,000 and you're good to go from there. But overall, besides that, I would imagine, I know they have a lot of plans in place right now for an on-campus one. Where that's at, you guys will be able to find out when that time comes. But at the end of the day, there are plans there, but you won't hear anything about it till the beginning portion of 2027, where the Steelers and everybody starts getting involved with what their next plans are at Acrisure Stadium. So
I have a hard time believing that the Steelers would leave downtown, but like you said, there's a lot of other teams leading that charge of like a mini city, if you will, mini complex city, like Chicago and Cleveland stuff. I just have a hard because I think they're already remodeling downtown a little bit on that shore, but we'll see. That's a topic for another day.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on the North Shore, which is pretty crazy. But transitioning, obviously, the game just did not go well for Pitt against Miami. We talked about that before. Mason Heinzel had, 22 of 32, 1 TD, 1 interception. I mean, didn't play horrible. 200 passing yards. Carson Beck was 23 of 29, 3 touchdown passes for 267 passing yards. Overall, the teams had Miami had 416 yards total offense. Pitt only had 229. When it came to rushing, Miami had 140 yards rushing. We only had 30 yards rushing, which is another thing about the Cade Bell offense. Just never can establish the run. That's kind of been well known at this point. And then when it came to time possession, back to where it was in the early portion of the season, 35 minutes or technically 36 minutes for Miami and then 24 minutes for Pitt. It's a 12-minute difference. That means a lot. I would say at this point here, yeah, that's the thing. And always underachievement. Even Pickett's senior year, we lost to a MAC team at home. That's inexcusable. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we even put up 40-some points. That was just Pat Narduzzi's defense getting absolutely shredded in 2021. I agree. Going into this year, Tyler Buchanan over at Facebook. Vegas had us at 5.5 wins before the season started. I know after 4 games, a lot were calling for the coaching staff's heads. That included me on here as well. I remember I said, let's make an evaluation at the end of the season. Some say we've seen enough over the years to know the answer already. I believe Dewes has earned the right to come back to another year, and his staff has put together an excellent freshman class together this year. Excellent evaluation of talent and maximizing that talent it is. Tyler, I agree. He has, I do appreciate everything Pat Narduzzi's done. The Vegas did have us at 5.5 wins. But if you look at us closer to the program, who watch this program every day, you can't judge basically everything off of Vegas. Yeah, that's great. We beat the Vegas odds. But when you looked at us as a collective group, even with Eli Holston going into the season, even with Eli, I had 8-4, 9-3. I mean, that was collectively as someone I saw the football team. Then we finished 8-4. But eventually, you have to start looking at the overall quality of this team. Now, if Cade Bell comes back, then I totally agree that Pat Narduzzi should be back. But if he doesn't, you're basically taking on players that weren't recruited by this next coordinator. You know what I mean? And then that's a whole nother story of what we need to go into in terms of the offseason. Because going into this year, I mean, think about it. We had a 3-9 season. Then we did 7-6. We were 7-0. We lost 6 straight games. Lost Toledo in the bowl game. You know, the P4 record has been horrible. I mean, if you look over the years too, I mean, we've gone 8-4, for instance. But guess what? You know, 2 of those wins, what we had Robert Morris and what was the other group of 5 or FC? Oh, Central Michigan. So take out, okay, you're 8-4, but really you're 6-4 against Power 4 teams.
Yeah,
is that good? I think that sometimes the 8-4 can be very strategic in what it looks like, you know. And again, we had Notre Dame as a non-con game. We had West Virginia as a non-con game. Even with Eli Holstein in there, we blew that game. You know, I mean, I've said it before. I'm just being honest. I mean, they were pretty much a glorified G5 or glorified FCS team. They finished 4-8 this year. They lost this weekend 49-0 over against Texas Tech. I mean, at the end of the day, those losses matter. You know, forget the rivalry portion of it. When you lose those games you're not supposed to lose, it's a problem. You know, and again, the Louisville game, you know, we blew that game because, you know, turnovers from the offense, especially from Eli Holstein. You make that change. You know, again, I give Pat Narduzzi that credit of making that change because guess what? It could have been worse. And then we really went down a path, and then he was really getting fired. You know, we're seeing across the board. Go look at, you know, Michigan State at this point. I mean, they're dropping on Jonathan Smith. They're dropping $33 million. That's roughly around the same ballpark. You know, $3 or $4 or $5 million less compared to what they're doing with Pitt. 21. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, because I didn't see the comment there. Yeah, I mean, I think what, you know, with the Vegas stuff, hindsight now being 2020, looking back at an 8-4 record, I think where the frustration could come into is it very well should be a 10-2 team, because if you beat teams like West Virginia and Louisville. However, that being said, if you beat West Virginia and Louisville, you may not have seen Mason this year, and you may end up having a worse record as the competition got a little more stiff. Yeah. So it's kind of like that whole, you know, you're upset about the record, but you know what? It is what it is. It's our 8-4 because you know what? You'll take those couple bad losses. I think we said this a few times. That loss to West Virginia, even though it was bad, I think really set up this team for the future because they've got Mason on the field quicker.
Yeah,
you kind of like it's what's that one thing in the Avengers? You know, they keep showing that meme. You know, we got to see Mason start, but what did it cost you? Everything.
Yeah, what did it cost you? Everything.
Yeah,
but that is such a great point, Eric. You bring up such a great point there. That, you know, at the end of the day, that West Virginia loss did actually help us. You know, we did get to see a true freshman on the team who was clearly the better quarterback. If we win that game, does the kid end up playing? Probably not. So to your point, again, it's give and take in everything, but it's just the whole body of work. You know, I do agree with you. If we win that game, I don't think that even after the Louisville game, you know, Eli Holstein's not benched. He's not being benched as a 4-1 starter. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. 2-2, it's a whole different ball game.
You would have had to have lost another ACC game or two, which would have meant that, you know, you wouldn't have been in the conversation for these last couple of weeks, you know, with an possible ACC championship game. And Pitt fan or 21 Pitt fan, I mean, you had the comment about the, you know, remodeling of Acrisure if the Steelers leave you. I mean, that would be a hell of an idea. If that were to happen, that would be a hell of an idea. I just think that the Steelers are going to just remodel that down there and keep it down there. And I do think the best course of action, we said multiple times, is Pitt to move back on campus, or at least closer to campus.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's what
somewhere
I agree
along
too.
that side. So yeah,
just closer, make it easier for the students to get there.
Make it easier for the students to get there and stay there. And maybe, you know, the student section becomes bigger, because I think that's what you see a lot on these SEC and Big Ten games at night. You see the student section is just ginormous, as it should be.
Mm-hmm. Some more comments obviously coming in. Again, thank you, 21 Pitt fan, for the $10 super chat. Also, too, I will die on this hill for Pitt fans. Some Pitt fans got upset with me about this. Luckily, believe it or not, I don't give a shit. We should not, in the history of mankind, We should not be playing Sweet Caroline at the end of the third quarter. Jesus Christ. Please stop playing. Please, for the love of Christ, stop playing Sweet Caroline at the end of the third quarter. We're getting pumped up and amped for the fourth quarter. I don't want to be sitting there watching people hand in hand singing, Sweet Caroline, let's go Pitt. What the hell are we doing? I mean, the Sweet Caroline should be at the end of the fourth quarter after wins. It's that simple. Or even if you put it after a loss, it should be a tradition at the end of the game. I mean, what are we doing?
Sweet Caroline should be. It sounds to me, just reminds me of one of those old drunk songs that you sing at the bar.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's just so overused.
Like Christmas party or something.
Yeah, like that song reminds me of the Boston Red Sox. That's for me, like where it started. The Boston Red Sox were the ones that had that. I'm a huge baseball guy. That was always Boston's thing. Why the hell do we have that shit? It just like where's some originality in this, man? Like,
look at the comments. By the way, the comments are hilarious with this Sweet Caroline. I mean,
that song can eat a bag of dicks.
Hey, I agree with you. Let's see. MCPP 6610 or 6616. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey,
like, that'd be great.
I would like to find that song like on an MP3 somewhere too, man. I just need a. I love that song. That was probably one of the best entrance songs in wrestling history. Is the Ultimate Warrior.
Some of the comments are hilarious. I agree 100% on what you just said on Sweet Caroline. Please put it on the reviews, guys. Jesus. I mean, it just. I'm just glad to hear everybody agree with me. Yeah. Looking at this overall, though, going into that, I do love the comments coming in. By the way, I agree. The end of the game is so much better. I appreciate it. Well, at least the real fans are right here, and they're the ones agreeing with us. I'm glad about that. I had a bunch of people on X saying no, like that's why we go to the games. You go to the game for the end of the third quarter to sing Sweet Caroline. What the hell's the matter with you? Like Jesus Christ, Steve. Yeah, this is great too. Wisconsin has jump around, and we got Sweet Caroline. Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. Exactly. And yeah, if you're gonna have a tradition on there, you know what? I don't mind like a fourth quarter tradition, but get a new song.
Oh God, y'all don't like the Chris Jericho theme song. Oh my God. Yeah, nothing strikes fear into your opponent like Neil Diamond. I mean, like what the hell? Like exactly. Like yes, we never sing it. It's like Piano Man. Such an embarrassment. Empty stadium, losing the ND by a lot, and the song comes on. Unbelievable. I agree. Yeah, like Iron Man. Like Iron Man. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm just so happy that everyone agreed with us right there, Eric. That was a good segment right there. I'm glad we brought that up.
Maybe it's another T-shirt. Get rid of Sweet Caroline.
Get rid of Sweet Caroline, and of course, don't be a hoe. Share the show. That's going to be our two shirts right there, man.
Yeah.
Another John Waffle. Do you think Dan Mullen is the future? I think he's a good football coach. I mean, he certainly won at Mississippi State. No other coach can win at Mississippi State. Look at Jeff Lebby. Look at any coach previously before him. I think he's a great football coach, and he's 10-2 this year at UNLV in his first season. I think there's a number of guys you could look at, guys. I mean, if I'm being honest, Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator at Ohio State, Charlie Partridge over at the Indianapolis Colts. I had Eric Morris on my list, but he got hired. I had Alex Golesh on my list. He got hired. All of a sudden, I had this list out there recently, like no one's going to hire these coaches. All of a sudden, every single one of them on my list is getting tagged and getting hired in the P4 and the SEC.
So I had this conversation, and I'm going to have it tomorrow when we do our Bird Cave about the Steelers. And I want to pose this to everybody here about Pitt. When you talk about new coaches. Do you guys, and I see a lot of names being thrown out there, and that's great. A lot of people are thinking, and I just don't like people who say we need a new coach. Who? I don't know. Find somebody. I like people to have thoughts. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of a coach or head coach does everybody want to see? Do we want to see a pro coach? Do we want to see another Cade Bell type? What I mean by that is a young offensive coordinator that's maybe and I'm making some schools up. Oregon, Texas, Ohio, some of these big schools, right? Do you want to see somebody with an offensive innovation? Do you want to see a defensive-minded coach to build up strong trenches in defense? What type of coach do you guys want to see? Because I think once you figure out, and I'm sure Alan Green's doing this, once you figure out what you want Pitt football to be from a specific type of game, then I think that targets a set of coaches to go out and interview. That way, you know that you're on the same page all the way from the athletic office, all the way down through the football offices. So I think that would be, that would be something that you'd want to take a look at. What kind of coach do you guys want to see?
Exactly. And to their points here, the offensive stuff and the defensive stuff doesn't really mind me. I mean, you have to look at the person of how they run, how their vision is to run an organization. Again, Brian Hartline I've talked about. John Gruden would like this job. I know that personally. John Gruden, he'd be, I think, a very interesting target for Pitt from a guy who's in the pro wise. Do I think he'd be successful here? I'm kind of like 50-50 on it, because just going from the pros to the here. But then you had guys like Eric Morris, who was, he just got hired by Oklahoma State. I'd have loved him. I think he was a great football coach. Charlie Partridge from the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, he's always been a guy that was always there. Will Stein out of the University of Oregon, offensive coordinator. There's a number of guys. I could probably pull up a list, as we go on during the season. But you want guys that normally come from a winning program, or if they're a sitting head coach of the group of five. Ryan Silverfield was another guy. He got picked up by Arkansas. It's just, you go across the board. I did see a question here about Narduzzi. Where the hell is that comment at here? Speedy Tortoise. Did you cover the reports about Deuce being a candidate at Michigan State? Yeah, they already hired Pat Fitzgerald. He was a candidate there with Brian Kelly and whatnot, but Pat Fitzgerald, I think, is the best option for them. They hired him today. He just had to get cleared by the board, University of Boards. They didn't know if he was going to get cleared from all the other stuff that happened. But yeah, I mean, Deuce was a candidate over there, but Pat Fitzgerald's a good option over there for them. I think he can turn that program around.
Comments are coming in with the coaches too. It's pretty funny. No, not Deion Sanders. Stop it.
No, we're not doing Deion Sanders. Get that shit out of here. What the fuck, Like, good God. Someone makes sense during the press conferences. Yeah, Mike Shanahan's another name. He's another guy.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Fish, Gruden is looking at college jobs. And I can tell you this right now, from a number of sources that I saw and heard on the sideline, he did say he would love the Pitt job. That was something he said there. Mike Shanahan's another guy with Will Stein. Mike Shanahan at Indiana. Will Stein at Oregon. Brian Hartline over at Ohio State. Even like some of the G5s. Bobby Chesney, I would have loved him up here as well. I had him on my list. All of a sudden now he looks like he's going to go to UCLA. Good pickup for them. There's just a number of names. I could do a whole list of names. I had Alex Golish on there. He's going to Auburn. There's a number of guys you can pick up here from a number of different teams. But guys, I can tell you this, as we hit the hour mark here, I can promise you this right now. We are going to be still doing the Sunday conversation going forward. We'll go through the offseason, because guess what? There's going to be plenty of discussions between recruiting, the transfer portal, players leaving, players going. Also, too, it's another thing I wanted to put out there while we're here. Guys, every single program is going to lose players through the portal. When a guy leaves, do not lose your mind, okay? Yeah. There are guys who are not playing right now that need more playing time. There may be a starter that's on there that needs to want to go get better playing time somewhere else. That's fine. The portal's open for a reason. We'll be able to grab more players. The whole portion of the portal at this point is to hold on to the majority of your key guys. That is the basis of it at all. You're going to have players hitting the portal, okay, because they're not getting playing time. That's understandable. Like every other program across the country, there's numerous players in the portal. So do not lose your minds. The comment section is still going wild. T-shirt out here, don't be a hoe, like Sweet Caroline. That's really good. Love the show. Glad to hear it will continue on the off season. Yeah, we'll be doing plenty of shows during the weeks. The Sunday conversation goes on plenty. I mean, this is a full year-round show. And obviously Eric and Harry, Carlo, everyone's always welcome to come on to the show. I know Eric will be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. But, I mean, there's plenty of stuff to talk about during the off season. Coaching searches. Pitt's recruiting wise, their signing classes. We'll do a whole bunch of facade and all kinds of stuff around college football. So plenty of stuff. Obviously, make sure you still tune in. If you have not done so, again, down below, hit like, hit subscribe. The show's free, so do everything right now. And of course, don't be a hoe. Share the show. And Eric, where can they find you, my good man, on all your socials?
Yeah, appreciate you, JJ, as always. Yeah, the Bird Cave on YouTube. Have the YouTube channel where we do our lives on Mondays and Thursdays. Talk mostly Steelers. Obviously, we'll bring up some Pitt and some college football as well. Looking forward to doing our college football playoff picks once that comes out. And you can also find me on the Twitters, a.k.a. X, at Bird Cave. So, yeah, going over there, like it, comment, all that good stuff like you guys do here. Appreciate you guys coming over, hanging out with us. It's definitely going to be a therapeutic discussion tomorrow night on the Steelers, but is what it is. But I appreciate you guys.
Yep. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Bird Cave. Obviously, that conversation with the Steelers is going to be a good one. Make sure you guys go over there, comment what your thoughts are about the Steelers, potentially getting rid of Mike Tomlin. Make sure you guys go in there. Obviously, GB and Eric are the best over there. Very good here, too. G5 guys, Sean Lewis and Jamie Chadwell. Yeah, Sean Lewis was a stud over at Kent State. Then he's doing a really good job right now over San Diego State. That's a whole other guy. He would love to come back to the East Coast. Jamie Chadwell, potentially. Really good names out there.
There was a coach that somebody brought up here, JJ. I want to take a look. Let me see if I scroll back up. Somebody said something about the Montana coach. I think he might be the next small school. Yeah, I'd have to go look him up. Obviously, don't know much about Montana football, but be interesting to take a look at that. Thanks for bringing that up there, Heather man.
Yeah, we'll have to look at those names. I know that guy's done a really good job. I don't know his name, but that'll be a guy that I'd look up. Maybe we'll do potential coaching searches for Pitt. Maybe we'll do a show on that. But I can tell you the Sunday conversation going on from here, guys. Now it's going to get really interesting now because of the head coaching searches, players in the portal, recruiting. It's only going to heat up from here. So if you have not done so, make sure you hit subscribe and like, because it's going to get very serious and a lot of sources and a lot of rumors. Don't buy into a lot of the other bullshit that's out there that no one knows what the hell they're talking about. Specifically from PPF and a number of other groups that have no idea what they're talking about. So
they just want to be first on the Twitters. That's all.
More coaches discussion tomorrow. I agree. Do you guys think that we will play Penn State in the bowl game? I mean, potentially. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. We're 8-4. They're 6-6. No, that would be a crazy thing overall. So, Darren Bennett, Bell to Coastal Carolina. That would be interesting to say the least. That would actually make a lot of sense to take a head coaching job, but he don't want a head coaching job at Coastal Carolina. He really wants to be an OC. OC and win a national title is what I was told he wants to do. So, guys, it's been another show. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. As always and forever, hail to Pitt. We'll see you guys next time.
Hail to Pitt. Take care.